Hello and welcome to our Spring Equinox chat with Angela Mendes about journaling. As you remember, at the end of winter and in the beginning of March this month, we did a live, which ended up being just live with myself because of technical problems. But Angela has been here all the way. And now is our chance to hear from Angela, her perspective on what we talked about, and also anchor ourselves in this present time and space near Spring Equinox. We just passed it, and on the surface it looks like yin-yang energy are in balance because we have day and night equal lengths, we have way more sunshine, and it feels like we're already into the spring. And we are, and so into the yang season, and we are, but not quite, because even so it's equinox, the yang energy is still very, very fresh. So we are talking about baby yang energy, which is going to grow and develop and get stronger and stronger and stronger as the weather warms up and sun levels improve and everything else. So this is interesting transition moment of time when we are, while completely and totally committing ourselves to movement and action in the yang, we still need to remember what we talked about with ourselves and around within our social circle, probably in winter. Why is that? Because from a Chinese medicine perspective, the element for spring is wood, and wood is fed by water, which is winter. So water is related to the winter element, and water, so to speak, is mother of the wood. So if our water is strong, if you behaved in winter, if we get enough time for relaxation, rest, sleep, contemplation, asking ourselves a lot of questions, not acting too much, not doing all these little movements, but finding time to be with ourselves, then our wood, which is now coming into its strength, is going to be strong, it's going to be healthy, it's going to be balanced. Because we want wood balanced, we don't want wood to be strong, too strong, because then it can overpower everything else. So, spring equinox. In the beginning of the month, we talked about winter questions. Wrapping up winter, we asked ourselves 5 levels of questions, starting from the yang level, ending from the yin level, because we looked into the winter energy. So the first question was, what do I want? We looked into the entire winter. What did we want from our winter? So this is the most yang category of question. What do we want? Our active want from our ego, from our spirit, from our assumptions about life. Let's phrase it this way. Next level of question is, what is actually going on? This is your daily reality check. This is still very much young because this is a level of conscious awareness, and this is something that we actively manage day to day. And then there is a bigger background, what has been happening lately, several months before, several seasons before, what is our general life background. Next level of question is more going into the yin. What is needing to happen? What was needing to happen this winter? We also know this happens. This is an entirely different story, but what was needing to happen? And finally, the most yin of them all, what was wanting to happen? And wanting to happen is something that speaks to us in a very, very small voice. And unless we make a conscious effort to stop and listen, we might never hear this level. So this is a deep, deep, deep yin level. So looking at those 5 categories of questions, those were our questions to life. Those were our request, if you will, to life to give us insight on where we are so we can understand it. And then life happened, and we are looking at the synthesis in a way of yin and yang. So what kind of answer life gave us? What happened instead? And I would like you to focus on the word instead. And we are going to hear from Angela, her perspective on the level of questions and on the instead situation, because instead is a sum total of what we asked and response we received from life. And this is exactly what we are going to take into our development, into our action development and expansion in the yang season of spring and summer. So over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Irina. You reminded me of the stress that I was in practicing as we were having technical issues, and we had that moment and in that moment, I remembered this is why I've been practicing, right? The practice, the journaling, the mindfulness, whatever practices I engage into, that moment was the reminder that all the work is for these moments, right? We go to the gym so we can run to catch a bus when we are running late, right? It is that awareness. And I had that awareness in that moment. And it was very painful for me emotionally that you were asking for my opinion and you couldn't read my messages. I was typing, people could read the message, but you couldn't. I couldn't speak because it's so interesting that now, as you were introducing the topic, the whole emotion came back, that sense of rush and tenseness, and it was very revealing in terms of this is what was happening, not just on our call, but I think also during winter. I live in the US, as most of you know, and this beginning of December was right post-elections, right? We had a new president, and there was lots of changes ahead. And I know that part of my journaling and looking back, what I wanted to happen during winter was exactly this. I wanted to remain present. I wanted to remain centered in myself. I tighten my practices because whenever there's something happening, some shift, someone pulls the rug underneath my feet, as soon as something happens, I tighten up my practices. And winter was that. A very consistent journaling practice, very consistent practice in terms of mindfulness, in terms of Qigong, in terms of going back to meditation. I joined a couple of groups. I found out that I was accepted to do this new training. So there was a lot of call for me to be present. So in a way, what I wanted directed my attention into what was happening, right? Because what was happening outside and inside was that agitation, was that uncertainty, was that doubt, was a lot of not understanding of what was here. There was definitely resistance. There was a lack of acceptance. I knew I was fighting the obvious, fighting the information that was coming in. And that was really interesting. And I journaled a lot about that in terms of what's happening. Why am I this tense? Or why am I reacting this way? Or there were a lot of resistance in terms of what was happening. That wasn't my plan. And your next question was a more Yin question, was what I was wanting to happen, which that became the aligning of not only my action, but also the slowdown. I definitely slowed way down. I was very slow. I did not leave the house. It was a very, very cold winter. So turning inward was easy. I did force myself to go out and to maintain the activities that nourish me in that level. I did reach out to a group of friends, and we did activities, and it was very nourishing. And at the same time, looking back, what I see was adjusting my rhythm, my inner rhythm that had changed to the flow of the outside. And I think those are the transitional times, right? We are in a transitional time now. We were at the beginning of winter. For me, geographically and emotionally, and in my attitude towards life. So for me, the journaling serves as an adjusting of that rhythm. Not that I can't deny what's happening, but I have to adjust that into the rhythm that feels healthy for me, that feels possible for me to be able to maintain, because I know I wouldn't be able to maintain if I was just following the rhythm of the outside, the imposed rhythm. And that's the needing, right? What's needing to happen. I needed to adjust. I needed to adjust what I knew inside, and journaling helps me a great deal to notice that inner voice that you were talking about, the inner repetitions, like, oh, I wrote this a few days ago, I'm sure, right? Even though I'm not like you, I don't read what I write most of the time. I kind of diagonally read it, so I have a sense of, oh, that was that day. But because my journaling is not factual, I don't write facts. Very rarely I write facts. I might register a fact that happened in my life, but my journaling is part of this listening, this leaning in, this curiosity in terms of what's my inner system telling me, because I do believe that it is that adjusting these rhythms that allow me to redirect my actions, allow me to do what sometimes my rationale cannot go there, because rationally I can't decide to do that. But it is through the journaling that I gain that little inspiration to take that action. And as you know, my actions are very small. Sometimes they're invisible. Most people don't notice that I'm actually acting. I'm Earth, so I'm very steady in that sense. But it is true, it is very related. My practice, my journaling practice is very relating to adjusting to what's needed here. Because what happens, I do not control. I do not control how I react to it, but I can notice how I react to it and adjust gradually. I think the misconception about personal development is that I can, right? I can adjust my behavior, I can change everything, I can overcome, I can achieve. And yes, I know it's true, but not like that. Not in a, oh, poof, right? Now I wake up and it's spring when it's actually not. And that I've learned throughout the years, and getting there by being here is part of that. It's really coming back here and being here, even when it's cold and frozen and stagnant and impossible to move. And being there, just noticing, oh, I'm frozen. Oh, it hurts. Oh, this is not what I wanted. Oh, I wish it was different. All that is here. That for me is the deep listening. Because when I connect with this inner life, with this inner call, then I can adjust the movement, then I can flow. Not in my imagination, my wildest dreams that I'm gonna ace this, right? But I will definitely, I'm more able to act, and I'm more able to connect what's here to what's needed. And it's, the subtitle of the book is Life's Invitations to Dance. And I think life is always inviting us to dance. In whatever comes, there's an invitation. I do have a choice in how I dance, how I respond to this. The rhythm might not be for me. And I can just sit on my sit and just move slightly, just acknowledging there's music playing, there's life happening. Or I can jump off my seat and fully dance, right? But the invitation is always there. And for me, accepting life's invitations for to dance is really just listening to what's there, which is your invitations. Grab those questions, set that journal, write them down, and allow the pen to do the rest. Notice, stop every now and then. I know conscious stream writing doesn't allow you to stop, but stop now and then and just notice inside. Is there contraction? Is there tension? Are my members colder in one part or another? No judgment. Notice the mind will create meaning out of that, which is okay, but you're the one that's noticing. And for me, that's the beauty of these transitional spaces, acknowledging this and acknowledging looking back, the reflection, the inquiry, the curiosity, in order for us to adjust. Now that the energy is different, definitely we can feel spring. There's something in the air, and it's just beginning, right? It's just the beginning, but adjusting, because life is energy, energy is movement, and all we have to do is adjust the movement according to us, according to what's playing. I guess that's it.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much. It's been inspirational. It's been deep. Thank you for that. It's curious how things work. As you were talking, I realized that similar things happened to me, but in a different flavor, if you wish, and I'll expand on it in a minute. But as for journaling, I want to say one thing. If you who are watching us, if you heard already Angela and me talking, you know that I read my journals. I keep my journals. Angela doesn't read her journals, and she does not keep her journals. And so this is why we decided to do it. This is one of the reasons we decided to do it, because we thought it would be a really great perspective to hear from two very, very different people doing journaling with a similar aim, but completely different way, with completely different styles and consequences and so on. One thing I wanted to say about journaling itself, even if, for example, you don't read your journals, what happens? Once I read a great book by some French philosopher, I'm not sure, I think it was one of the human comedy series books. And there was this phrase which really impressed me. I was a teenager back then. And the phrase was, in our inner life, our thoughts and our contemplations are events. And for me, it was like eye-opener. Because indeed, as we write, because writing, journaling, this is part of our internal world, inner work, this is where we're opening up with ourselves. And as we are writing, I write a lot about what happened, and like you, Angela, I write a lot about what happened, about what I want to happen, what other things are happening. So my writing very often is anchored in real life. But what happens then, I'm inevitably getting to this aha moment and something else comes into play. And this is my version of your inner life, your thoughts and your insights are real event. Because then what happens if you do the journal in this particular style, basically this is an event. And this is a new knowledge. This is not something that was there. It was there, but it was deep inside you. And then when it appears on paper, then as you are writing it, you don't even need to go back and read it, because as you are writing it, you are seeing it. You are sensing it. You are feeling it. And this new insight, this is new knowledge, obviously stays with you. And as for the light change, I am completely with you. Look at all these interesting figures that lighting from my window gives me today. It was not the case in winter. Our topic today, what happened instead? So we wanted something, life was going on, there was a wider background. We felt that something was needing to happen, whether we wanted it to not, like we needed, for balance, we needed to do more rest, or we needed to show up with our lives work more, depends, or what was wanting to happen, those smallest, most deepest voice. And then there was this instead, what happened instead. And it's interesting that you mentioned slowing down. Along a similar line, For me, it was not about slowing down. I didn't, for many different reasons, but I restricted my areas of operations. And this was very, very interesting. Some of my students are practitioners of other therapies, and inevitably, most of them see me a lot as wood element. Even so, I'm not, I'm earth, but a lot of people see this wood. And wood, as I said, could be a very interesting element. It can give you amazing development, great insight. Wood is about growth. And if you think about the seasons, the season of wood is where all the plants are in active stage of growth and development. Now think about it. If you have this element strong within you, and very often it runs in the family, so there is no escape from it, you have it, it's just a matter of what you do with it. So if your entire life, regardless of age, you are being in this stage of growth and development, you never arrive. You exhaust yourself. And then you're doing a lot of unnecessary movements when sometimes all you need to do is go back and see what you actually created. So for me, funny enough, at the very end of winter, almost in the beginning of the spring, after my practices, because also I have different set of practices from you, Angela, but my practices are color puncture, deep therapies, conflict resolution therapies with color puncture, journaling, and dream work. After a particular color puncture treatment, actually, it was very interesting. It was called cosmic clocks. Cosmic clocks are a series of treatments which are designed to reset our clocks, which basically provides connection between us and the bigger universe. It's like alignment. So it was a realignment and reset of the clocks. And suddenly what occurred to me was that I actually arrived. Through my entire life, I was in this growth and development stage. And I was always aiming to improve, to do something better, to do something bigger, and so on and so forth. And suddenly I realized that actually I arrived to where I wanted to in many areas of my life. It looks completely different from what I wanted. It looked completely different from what I envisioned. But for better or worse, in several areas, I actually arrived. And I need to look at this. And I need to consciously just stay there and nurture what I created and not carry on developing and developing and developing. And here we're talking obviously about patterns. So this is my pattern. So reflect on yours, if you're listening to us. What is your pattern? And what is your invitation to reconsider? And this particular winter, there was a lot of invitation for me to reconsider my automatic assumptions. My eldest son family came to stay with us for a while, and we didn't see each other for nearly a decade. They lived in North America. So communication is very, very different. We had a system here, we had a family here, and then this new family arrived. And this time when we are together, there is another system. There are two systems trying to interact and talk about dance, Angela. Absolutely. We are trying to find our way, or at least to get to know each other a little bit better, if not to build something completely different, if not to understand, at least we are trying to dance with it and observe what is. And talking about systems also, it's very, very interesting. Here is the level of the systems. And I think I felt at the end of winter that I arrived, and I arrived into a completely different space from what I intended, because I was the element of a system. And then I became element of even a bigger system. And obviously, when you're an element of a bigger system, you are a part of it. You don't completely realize your place, your area of activity, if something is needed from you, or what it is exactly what is needed. This is when we're talking about people. But talking about systems, I also have several lines of work. As you know, I do color puncture, I do dream work, I do journaling. And even though they are all about internal works, they're all about conflict resolutions, they're all about creating happiness and sustainable living, they are very different. On a level of interaction of people, we can say, yes, I'm just an element of the system, because obviously I am just another human being in this broader circle. When we work and we have several lines of work, as I do, we feel like we manage the whole thing. So I feel like I manage, or I should, a puncture in my life and dream work and journaling. But what I realize that I'm holding them, not managing them, but I'm holding them. Those three areas tend to interact with each other. according to their own laws. And so what is my role? And even so it seems simple, it is not, because I'm observing that, again, this is something completely different. So we can expect to arrive somewhere what we didn't. This is the level of the system. But if you're talking on a level of life, then again, we have family, we have work, we have social circles, we have obligations, we have hobbies. So there are, again, several elements of our life which we seemingly managing. But in a way, they are managing each other. And part of our role is that of observation. So what happened to me instead, coming back to our winter questions, instead, this understanding that actually, yes, I arrived in certain moment, and even so the scenery is completely not what I envisioned. I need to take what is, and I need to take this what is into the phase of growth and development seasonally, not now in a global sense in terms of like life's work, but seasonally for this particular spring and summer, and see what I can do with it. Even so, at the moment, I feel like the scenery is completely different. I don't know what to do with it. But what I realize that actually I'm just going to trust. I'm going to go with it. And speaking of elements again, so if you would like to support your water, so water can manage and feed and nurture the wood, then again, you need to go back and see what kind of practices you have in your life, what you can rely on, what you can fall back onto when you, as you mentioned, Angela, when the situation is stressful, like what will support you? So this is very, very interesting question. For those who are listening to us, it would be really, really interesting. Please do reflect on your processes. Please reflect on what Angela said, what I shared, and see where you stand in relation to all these different levels of questions from yin to yang, where you are in this moment of time, spring equinox, where energies are equal, but the yang energy is very, very fresh. It's a baby yang, so it's only beginning, and it's going to grow. And what is it wanting and needed to grow into, and how you can hold it without managing, without controlling, but how you can hold it. And then you will arrive to what is needing to happen and what is wanting to happen. So this is my perspective on things. Also, over to you, Angela. What would you like to complete our discussion on for today?
Yeah, I will highlight what you said. For me, it's about finding the practice that resonates with you. Can be dream work, can be journaling, can be color puncture, but find a system that actually agrees and nourishes your own rhythm. Because it's very easy to judge ourselves and want something else, but then we get into depletion because we are fighting constantly. And I think accepting these lives invitations through presence, through paying attention, through noticing, through reaching out and asking for support, because at the end of the day, we're only human. So yeah, I definitely recommend your journaling course change the way I journal, even though I see it in a different way. For me, the journaling that I practice first thing in the morning is very yin. It's very sensorial. It's very arriving into presence. And the prompts that you suggest are absolutely amazing that I use throughout the day. Something happens, I get puzzled, I write it down. Then I use that as a starting point. And I think that is, even though I've been journaling for I can't even remember how long, it is really interesting we can always learn and expand in our own tools and our own practices. There's always a different perspectives. And I think as humans, we do that, right? Our own nervous systems feed each other, regulate through each other. And I think that is important to remember that we are here together.
Thank you so much, Angela. And thank you for your warm words about my journaling prompts and journaling course. And I'm really, really, really happy that it helped and it created a difference. It created this sort of new sort of slant on things. And it's important for me to hear. I want to reciprocate by saying that just how many times your concept of getting there by being here and just exploring whatever is happening, what it creates inside, and reminding me, tirelessly reminding me to come back to the space. You have no idea how many times during this winter it helped. And it provided this anchor which I needed, because sometimes our practices are not even about practice, because any practice, be that journaling or calapanchi, any kind of life coaching, dream work, qigong, anything, they are means to an end. Those are means to connect ourselves back to ourselves, to become ourselves more, to let ourselves feel and trust what we feel more. So those are just means to an end. And sometimes it could be something completely different. For example, since the beginning of winter and still now, pretty much, I actually walk a lot, because this is my way to also integrate something within movement. So yes, I do body therapy, I do dream work, I do journaling. So this is mind, body, and spirit. But I also needed something in the external, which this particular season happened to be working. It helped me a lot to integrate the rest of it and come up with different solutions as well. So thank you so much, Angela. We hope that whatever you heard today will be of help. Please don't hesitate to contact us either through my website. You can contact Angela, you can write comment. Please express your thoughts. Please be with yourself more. Please remember that you can get there, whatever your version of there is, only by being here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.